that one was done through the microwave scheme, which is the low budget scheme at Film London, and it was the first and I think probably the only documentary they'll ever do, because it caused them so much pain and sorrow. Because microwave scheme is set up for low budget films. Low budget films are very contained. They're contained. They're in a location, like you were talking about, small location. Keep it all simple. We had 100 locations, 200 contributors. It was just all way out of hand. It was all extremely wrong, but very good fun to do, I have to say. So, are there any questions anyone has about British Guide to Showing Off or any of that world?
Is that being broadcast?
No, it's going to be broadcast. We just sent the tape to BBC to get it approved, and it's going to be broadcast in the next year or so. So
that was going to be my question.
Oh, right. Okay, yes, you can. I think you can get it still on Virgin. You know, they have an online player. You can get it there. And if anyone's really, really excited and urgently needs to see it, I do have a couple of copies here. So just in case. So then, yeah. So life does throw curveballs at you. After that film, obviously, I was planning. I was actually a very reluctant documentary maker. I didn't actually aim to make documentaries at all. I just kind of have ended up doing that. And then life can get a bit dramatic. I was planning lots of documentaries, and then unfortunately, beginning of last year, my sister fell ill and died. My oldest sister, which was deeply tragic. And actually, it's the first time I've talked about it in public in this way. So excuse me if I get a bit emotional. But that kind of, like having a kid, it kind of sorts you out a bit. You know what I mean? It's a bit of a slap round the face, and you have to ask yourself, what the shit do I want to do? And I looked at all these documentary proposals, and I thought, yeah, they're all great, you know, they're all great, but actually, I've got a weird hankering to do something in Glasgow with a strange old comedian, which is what I ended up doing. And actually, it all started happening around this time when my sister was actually dying. And in fact, the film that I'm going to show you, this Random Acts film, we actually shot on the day that I got a call saying you have to come up to Glasgow now, it's all gone terribly close to the end. So what was really odd was I shot it, and then suddenly I was in no mood to touch it at all. I didn't want to go near it, except that I was in Glasgow, and oddly enough, the film is, or the basic premise is that this old comedian goes back to Glasgow because his uncle has died. And so it was a very strange, you know, life and art kind of colliding thing. And I spent a few weeks while my sister was in the hospice. Every evening I would go out and I would take a few photographs around Glasgow, because I knew I wanted to create a Glasgow that didn't exist, because this comedian, Arnold Brown, who was one of the original comedians at the Comedy Store, was one of the first alternative comedians in Britain. And he's an amazing character, but people either know him or you know him or you don't know him, and he's one of those characters. But he's a very, very strong comic identity, as you'll see in the couple of shorts. But I wanted to create something. Whenever I saw Arnold in the past, and when I was doing comedy, we'd actually worked together a few times on the same stages and same radio programs and things in the 80s. And I just thought his view of Glasgow was so not real that the only way to set it is in a Glasgow, definitely a Glasgow, but that's not real. So I went around photographing Glasgow and then recombining it later to create backgrounds for Arnold to be in. And it's part of a bigger project that we're still working on, and hoping to raise some money for it. It won't be a feature. I think it's going to be a series, I think. It might be a web series or TV series, just depends on who gets excited or not about it. But as I seem to live in a slightly fringe existence, it may not be telly, it may end up being the web. And it'll be freer for that, as I found out during the microwave film thing. By taking a lower budget, deliberately choosing to get less funding, we were a lot freer, and editorial-wise, you know, really the buck stopped with me. So if the film's bad, it's my fault, and I prefer that. Having had friends who've made films that are bad because people have forced them to make bad changes, I thought I'd rather shoulder the blame for being rubbish myself than blame it on someone else. So we had planned one film for Random Acts as a pilot, and Arnold's delivery is so laconic and so slow and teased out. His timing is so, I think, is marvellous and strange, that when we'd recorded this 3-minute script, it ended up being 7 minutes long. So we kind of got back to Random Acts and went, can we do 2? And I'll cut out a minute. I'll cut out the worst minute, and then we'll do 2. And they went, yeah, okay. So here are 2 films, which kind of really should be 1, but they're. It's not a. Unlike the first film that you saw, it's not a complete film. It's deliberately meant to tease as a pilot, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Are we going to time? You have to vote.
No, we're good. We're good for time.
Oh, good.
We've got a good 10 minutes.
All right. Would anyone like to ask anything?
I have a really stupid question.
Yeah, please do.
If someone gave you like £60 million to make a film with, what film would you make?
Something like strange, I think. £60 million. That's a lot of money. Not a lot for well, there's a book that I really, really love, and everyone says it's probably unfilmable, so I'd probably go for that. It's a book called Life, a User's Manual by George Peretz. I don't know if any of you have come across some nods. It's an amazing book, a mind-bending book. It's written by George Peretz, who's an incredibly formal writer. He's written. He gives himself ridiculous rules, so he wrote a book called A Void, which has no E's in it. That's how he is as a writer. And then he wrote one which was all E's, just to make up for it. It's true. But Life User's Manual is set in a Parisian block of flats, and it's got 100 rooms, and there are 100 chapters. And that's how it plays out. But it actually is a strangely evolving story, but it's got some incredible scenes in there. Basically, it plays on the fact that we totally underestimate the people we live next to, and I love it. That's
I hope you don't take offence to this, but you seem to have sort of stumbled into filmmaking to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And you just sort of film in a way that you want to do it. You do what you want to do in a way that and I just wondered how you are received in that way. Are you taken in, you kind of embraced, or do you find sometimes that creates barriers for you to sort of?
It's interesting. Yeah, it's a sort of mixture. Yeah, I sort of stumbled into filmmaking about 25 years ago. So actually, weight of experience means that quite a lot of people can't kind of resist in a way, because I've got enough kind of, I'm not doing stuff blindly anymore. But I was at first and really enjoyed it, I have to say. And I think the whole sort of spirit of experimentation you were talking about, David, and also I know that Chris has been involved and didn't talk about it much, but actually a lot of your work comes from that. I mean, that's the thing, is we all kind of swim in the same sea. If you use visual material, first of all, you have to play, you have to experiment. And I spent, 3 years taking photographs, not even thinking about doing film, and just kind of, what do I like, what do I enjoy? And yes, that makes my work, I don't come from an art background, so I don't have that kind of gravitas about my work at all. But British Guide to Showing Off, that film was really well received critically, which I was really delighted about, because I was absolutely sure it would get a mauling, because it's not like deeply serious or heavy, or have any of, like the film I did before British Guide to Showing Off was called The Holocaust Tourist, and it was about tourism to death camps, and everyone of course loved it. that meant that it was quite to follow up. Actually, I felt I needed to do something lighter anyway after that one, although there was a lot of humour in it, because I can't resist, because I think that life isn't complete without a laugh as well. Man punches the twice. That's a good response to that line. Any other questions, thoughts?
How conventional are your on-set kind of style? Do you make your films like you would expect a film to be made, or do you take that kind of conventional angle to the process?
Yes, I do. For people who didn't hear at the back, I don't know if you heard at the back, but the question was about how conventional was my process. I use a mixture of stuff, because I came from a theatre background. I've got lots of kind of theatre tricks, although it's a long time since I did theatre stuff now. But sometimes I try and forget all the things that I've ever done in order to feel fresh and in the moment with ultimately. So it's a mixture of trying to keep as fresh as possible and use all the tricks and stuff that I've learned along the way, some of which are very traditional. I did learn how to do traditional stuff, and like the Arnold Brown piece there, that was all very carefully clapperboarded and all storyboarded, and everything was done really precisely, partly because he's 76 and he needs certainty, and that's absolutely fair enough, because actually he's funniest when he's certain. So it depends on. So with Andrew and Michael, when I was filming them, actually we started filming conventionally using a crew, and I realised we were getting nothing, because what was happening was that Andrew would, whenever he saw something, there's a really classic example of it, he'd like, the mask would go on, everything would and it would be, he'd be, Mr. Cheery Chippy, and he'd be like this, and we'd be like, what, where was the guy I was talking to like 10 minutes ago before the camera came out? So that's why it took so long in the end, because I thought, right, fuck it, I'm going to go in there with the camera myself and just break down, which is why the shooting is so bad. Deep apology until more professional people get involved and you can see them nicely composing and lighting and all that sort of stuff. But I felt that actually the only way to get some of that off-guard stuff was to get in there. So, like my films, I'll kind of use any technique to get something happening, some heat happening, something real. Whether it be fiction or documentary, because documentary, as Chris was talking about, is such an artifice. You're basically making something that feels like real life, rather than recording real life. So you have to be prepared to do anything to make the audience feel like you think would be a nice idea to feel when you're watching it.
Got to ask, why the badge?
That's a Mr. Logan. That's a Mr. Logan badge. He gave me it. When did he give me this one? Give me he tends to do that with people, gives them these nice broken glass things that he makes, and he gave me at some point after the film was finished, I think, school. Here you are, it's very nice. I think you'll suit that. And what I like about it is one, obviously people ask, so that's kind of nice, because I'm one of those shy extroverts. So actually breaking the ice is very good. That or a glass of wine. We done?
We can be if you like.
I
Has
don't
anyone
mind.
got any other questions? What are you working on now?
Well, I became really monomaniacal, really single-minded about working with Arnold on a bigger series, because I think there's something about it, and that's not it. That is definitely not it. But it's the feel of it, and I like the feel of it, and I like the noirishness, and I like that. I'm really fascinated by the fact that he's very aware that he's quite soon going to die. I'm very fascinated by the fact that he is still utterly charming, utterly funny, and lives each day just as he can. He's pretty poor, like a lot of the people I seem to film over the years, but he's got such a great attitude, and he so loves his comedy. That I know that whatever we manage to do will be great in some way, and my job is to try and pull as much story into it as possible.
Is it definitely going to be filmed for you from now on, do you think, or you might go back to stage stuff?
I don't know, it's been such a long time since I did stage stuff. I'd quite like to do stage stuff again, but I'm not quite sure the way back in. I have to find the magic door somewhere, and then yeah, exactly. But as anyone in this room will know, if you've done any kind of creative stuff, that creative worlds they're not massively open. Especially, when you're young, you can kind of blindly just stumble in, as I did. And when you get a bit older, you're kind of a bit aware of all the politicking going on and all the kind of manoeuvring and stuff. Having experienced it as a young man and kind of going, why are people doing that and not that? Why have they locked us in this room? We went on Wogan once when I was in comedy, a very long time ago. That dates mid-80s. And they were so terrified of us because of 3 young Scots guys doing very kind of robust, energetic stuff. And we didn't realise what it was. Because the night before we'd been on LBC radio, and they'd said, what do you think of people who say that all Scots are drunken and stupid? And because that was our take on it, was stripping down Scottish stereotypes. And my response was, well, we'll break their legs. And which was obviously a joke, as you can tell, but that resulted in the BBC following us round and being terrified that we were going to do something very naughty, which we did a little bit, but not massively. So yeah, I became aware of the sort of machinations of the creative world at that age, at 21 it was. Sort of going, all these people are not being very nice to us and not allowing us to have any time on our own, and we were planning to do something naughty. What are we going to do? So I realised it had to be slightly outside the mainstream. But yeah, maybe theatre. Maybe a bit more audio. I don't know, that's quite a nice thing as well.
Well, thank you very much. Quick thank you to all the filmmakers who've come tonight. It was wonderfully diverse and wonderfully experimental. So I hope you all got a lot out of it. Katie, would you like to say anything else?
Thank you all for coming. So Spotlights is a bi-monthly event that we do, obviously every 2 months. The next one's in February. We've got one more tomorrow night as part of the London Short Film Festival, and then our next one's February the 12th, and we've got some up-and-coming filmmakers who are still sort of quite up-and-coming, so come along and support them on the 12th. And we are at Rich Mix on Saturday as also part of the London Short Film Festival with an event called Making Tracks, posted on the wall over there. We're doing live scores to short films, and there's a Foley theme, like live sound effects, so that should be really exciting. And just like to say thank you to the venue for everything they've done tonight, and to Steve and to Joe, and again to the filmmakers and also to Carlo as well. Thanks for coming. Good night.